From Krypton to Metropolis, from comic books to blockbuster movies, Superman has been inspiring fans for over 80 years. But do you know the full story of how the Man of Steel became the greatest superhero of all time? In this video, we're diving deep into Superman's incredible journey, uncovering his origins, the evolution of his powers, his legendary team-ups with Batman and Wonder Woman, and how he's taken over TV screens with series like Smallville and Lois and Clark. Plus, we're giving you the latest scoop on Superman Legacy, the new movie directed by James Gunn, starring David Karen Sweat. Stick around for some mind-blowing trivia and find out what makes Superman truly timeless. You won't want to miss this. Superman's story began during the Great Depression in the 1930s, a time when people were looking for hope and inspiration. Two high school friends, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, dreamt up a character who would embody the ideals of strength and justice. The idea of an all-powerful godlike being was partly inspired by science fiction stories like John Carter of Mars and characters from mythology like Hercules and Samson, known for their immense strength and heroic deeds. But what about Clark Kent, Superman's mild-mannered alter ego? For his everyday persona, Siegel and Shuster looked to two different influences. Clark Kent's name was inspired by Hollywood stars of the time, Clark Gable and Kent Taylor. They also wanted to contrast Superman's larger-than-life persona with someone more humble and relatable. Clark Kent's character, shy, awkward, and often overlooked, was partly based on Jerry Siegel himself, who saw a bit of his own personality reflected in Kent's unassuming demeanor. He was also modeled after the archetype of the bumbling reporter, drawing influence from silent film comedian Harold Lloyd, known for playing the role of the nerdy but good-hearted underdog. Together, these inspirations helped Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster craft the character who could walk among humans unnoticed as Clark Kent, but transform into the world's greatest superhero when needed. Superman's creation not only revolutionized comic books, but also laid the foundation for the modern superhero genre as we know it today. Their initial concept of Superman was as a villain, but they soon reimagined him as the hero we know today. After several rejections, Superman made his first appearance in Action Comics issue 1 in 1938, published by Detective Comics, which would later become DC Comics. This issue featured Superman on the cover, lifting a car over his head, an image that would become iconic. The character was an instant hit, ushering in the golden age of comics and making superheroes a mainstay in popular culture. Fun fact, did you know that Siegel and Shuster sold the rights to Superman for just $130? Crazy, right? But little did they know, Superman would soon become a global icon. Superman was unique for his time, an alien with godlike abilities living among humans, yet choosing to use his powers for good. His iconic suit, complete with a red cape and the now world-famous S emblem, became a symbol recognized around the globe. But it's not just his powers that make Superman special, it's his moral compass, shaped by his adoptive parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent, who taught him to use his abilities responsibly and for the benefit of humanity. Superman's origin story is legendary. Born as Kal-El on the doomed planet Krypton, his parents Jor-El and Lara sent him to Earth in a small spaceship just before Krypton exploded. He was found and adopted by Jonathan and Martha Kent, who named him Clark Kent and raised him in the small town of Smallville. As Clark grew up, he discovered he had incredible powers, including super strength, flight, and X-ray vision. His adoptive parents taught him strong moral values, guiding him to use his powers for good. Eventually, Clark moved to Metropolis, where he became a journalist for the Daily Planet and adopted the superhero identity of Superman, dedicated to fighting crime and protecting humanity. Superman's comic book adventures are legendary. Over the decades, he has faced countless foes, teamed up with other superheroes, and experienced some of the most iconic moments in comic book history. Here are some key highlights. The Golden Age from 1938 until 1950s. This era introduced readers to Superman's origin, his iconic powers, and his primary nemesis, Lex Luthor. During this time, Superman was portrayed as a defender of the oppressed, tackling social issues and fighting crime. The Silver Age from 1956 until 1970. This period saw the introduction of many key elements of the Superman mythos, including the Bottle City of Kandor, Brainiac, and the Phantom Zone. Stories became more science fiction oriented, with Superman facing cosmic threats. The Bronze Age from 1970 until 1985. Superman's stories during this era became more complex and character-driven. The Kryptonite Nevermore arc by Denny O'Neil and Kurt Swan depowered Superman for a while, making his adventures more grounded. The Modern Age from 1986 until 2011. John Byrne's The Man of Steel miniseries in 1986 rebooted Superman's origin for a new generation. Major storylines from this era include the death of Superman, where Superman dies fighting Doomsday, and his eventual return in the Reign of the Superman. Recent years, Superman continues to be a central figure in DC Comics. Stories like All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely and Superman Red Son by Mark Millar offer unique and critically acclaimed takes on the character. From his humble beginnings, Superman's story has grown to encompass vast narratives that reflect the changing times. In the 1940s, he was a wartime hero, fighting against tyranny and injustice during World War II. The 1950s and 60s saw the introduction of Superman's expanded mythology, with characters like Supergirl, Brainiac, and the Bottle City of Kandor adding depth to his universe. In '92, DC Comics shook the world by killing off Superman in the storyline The Death of Superman, where he battles the monstrous Doomsday. This event was a cultural phenomenon, symbolizing that even the greatest heroes can fall. Of course, Superman didn't stay dead for long and returned in the Reign of the Superman arc, marking his triumphant comeback. Superman has also been a key member of the Justice League, teaming up with Batman, Wonder Woman, and other heroes to face larger-than-life threats. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are often referred to as the Trinity of the DC Universe. These three heroes have a unique and powerful dynamic. Superman represents hope and justice, Batman brings his dark and strategic mind, and Wonder Woman embodies strength and compassion. Their teamwork officially started in the comic book Justice League of America issue 1 in 1960. Since then, they've faced numerous threats together, proving that there's strength in unity. Superman's role in the Justice League is crucial. The Justice League, first appearing in The Brave and the Bold issue 28 in 1960, brought together DC's greatest heroes to fight against threats too big for any one hero to handle. Alongside Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter, Superman has led the team through countless adventures. The League has been adapted into several animated series like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and featured in major films like Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Superman has been a staple of animated television, bringing his adventures to life in colorful and exciting ways for decades. One of the earliest and most beloved adaptations came from Fleischer Studios in the 1940s. The Superman animated shorts were groundbreaking for their time, using rotoscoping technology to create realistic action sequences. These shorts introduced the iconic catchphrase, "Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive," which has become synonymous with the character. In the 90s, Superman the Animated Series debuted as part of the DC Animated Universe, created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. This show was a direct follow-up to the highly successful Batman the Animated Series and shared the same noir-inspired animation style. Tim Daly voiced Superman, bringing both strength and vulnerability to the character. The series explored many elements of Superman's mythology, including his battles with classic villains like Lex Luthor, Brainiac, and Darkseid. It also delved into his relationships with Lois Lane and Batman, setting the stage for future team-ups in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. This animated series helped a whole new generation of fans connect with Superman and cemented his status as one of the greatest heroes of all time. Superman has also appeared in various team-based animated series, most notably in Super Friends from 1973 until 1986, where he led the Justice League alongside Batman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. Although more lighthearted in tone, Super Friends introduced Superman to a wide audience of children and became a cornerstone of Saturday morning cartoons. Superman's origins are deeply tied to the doomed planet Krypton, a highly advanced world light years away from Earth. Krypton was portrayed as a place of science and technology, a planet whose people were intellectually and culturally advanced but ultimately doomed by their arrogance. Superman's father, Jor-El, was a leading scientist who discovered that Krypton was on the brink of destruction due to its unstable core. However, the Kryptonian government refused to heed his warnings. As a last resort, Jor-El and his wife, Lara, sent their infant son, Kal-El, to Earth, where he would grow up under Earth's yellow sun, gaining extraordinary powers and becoming the hero known as Superman. In various adaptations, Krypton has been portrayed with varying aesthetics and tones. In 2013's Man of Steel, Zack Snyder presented Krypton as a militaristic and visually stunning society, while in Superman the Animated Series V, it was more of a utopia of scientific achievement. The richness of Krypton's culture and the tragedy of its demise remain central themes in Superman's history, highlighting how the hero carries the weight of his lost heritage while embracing his adopted home of Earth. There was also the Krypton TV series, which explored the history of Superman's grandfather Siegel and the political and social dynamics of Krypton prior to its destruction. This series added depth to the lore of Superman's home planet, showcasing the legacy of the House of El and how its members shaped the fate of Krypton. Superman has had a long history on television, with multiple live-action series bringing the Man of Steel into the homes of millions of viewers. One of the most iconic TV portrayals was in the 1950s Adventures of Superman, starring George Reeves as Superman. This was one of the first times audiences saw Superman in live action, and it helped solidify the character's place in pop culture. In the 90s, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, gave fans a fresh take on the hero. Starring Dean Cain as Superman and Terry Hatcher as Lois Lane, the show focused more on the romantic and comedic dynamics between the two leads. This series was notable for exploring the relationship between Lois and Clark, delving into their love story in a way that had never been done before. It was hugely popular and ran for 4 seasons, blending action, romance, and humor in a family-friendly format. Perhaps the most influential Superman series of the 2000s was Smallville. This show followed a young Clark Kent, played by Tom Welling, as he grew up in the small town of Smallville, Kansas, learning about his powers and destiny before becoming Superman. Smallville took a deep dive into the character's origins, exploring his relationships with friends, family, and early enemies like Lex Luthor, played by Michael Rosenbaum. The show balanced teen drama with the superhero action, making it a major hit for a decade. One of the most notable aspects of Smallville was its no flights, no tights rule, meaning Clark Kent didn't fully become Superman until the very last episode. This allowed for a more grounded approach to his journey, focusing on his struggles to understand his role as a hero. Smallville also had some exciting guest appearances. One of the most memorable was Christopher Reeve, who appeared in 2 episodes as Dr. Virgil Swan, a scientist who helps Clark Kent uncover the secrets of his Kryptonian heritage. This casting was a tribute to Reeve's legacy as Superman, and it created a powerful connection between the Smallville series and the classic Superman films. Linda Carter, famous for her portrayal of Wonder Woman in the 1970s, also made an appearance in Smallville as Chloe Sullivan's mother, adding yet another nod to DC's rich history. In more recent years, Superman returned to the small screen in Superman and Lois, starring Tyler Hoechlin as Superman and Elizabeth Tulloch as Lois Lane. This series explores Superman's role as both a superhero and a father, giving fans a fresh look at the character's life as a parent while still maintaining the action-packed adventures fans expect from the Man of Steel. Superman's journey to the big screen spanned decades, with each generation having their own version of the Man of Steel. The first major film, 1978's Superman the Movie, directed by Richard Donner, starred Christopher Reeve in what many still consider the definitive portrayal of Superman. The film is iconic for its uplifting tone and unforgettable score by John Williams. Reeve's Superman became the face of heroism, striking a perfect balance between Clark Kent's mild-mannered personality and Superman's commanding presence. 1980's Superman 2 took things to the next level, pitting Superman against General Zod and his fellow Kryptonian villains. This film introduced fans to the phrase, "kneel before Zod," which has become one of the most famous quotes in superhero cinema. The subsequent films, 1983's Superman 3 and 1987's Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, unfortunately failed to live up to the legacy of the first 2 with weaker plots and diminished special effects. However, Christopher Reeve's commitment to the role remained a highlight, and his portrayal continues to influence how the character is portrayed today. Superman made his return to the big screen in 2006 with Bryan Singer's Superman Returns. Brandon Routh took over the mantle, delivering a performance that paid homage to Reeve's portrayal. Although Superman Returns was conceived as a spiritual successor to the Donner films, it struggled to make a lasting impact, largely because it relied too heavily on nostalgia and lacked the action-packed sequences that modern audiences had come to expect. Then came the modern reboot with 2013's Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder and starring Henry Cavill. This film explored Superman's origins in a darker, more realistic setting, reflecting a world where humanity might fear a being as powerful as Superman. Snyder's portrayal polarized fans, with some loving the complex and conflicted Superman, while others missed the more hopeful and optimistic tone of the previous films. Despite mixed reactions, Man of Steel reinvigorated the Superman franchise, setting the stage for a new shared universe. One of the most anticipated superhero films of all time, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, brought together two of DC's greatest heroes for the first time on the big screen. This film was monumental because it explored the ideological clash between Superman and Batman. Henry Cavill reprised his role as Superman, while Ben Affleck took on the role of a seasoned and cynical Batman. The film builds on the destruction scene in Man of Steel, showing how Bruce Wayne sees Superman as a potential threat to humanity, especially after the battle in Metropolis. Batman, fueled by his fear of what Superman could do, sets out to defeat the Man of Steel. Their confrontation is not just physical, it is a battle of ideals. Superman represents hope and the potential for good, while Batman is driven by his experiences with corruption and loss. A major plot point in the film is the infamous Martha scene, where both heroes realize they are more alike than they initially thought. This moment leads to their coming together, culminating in a battle against Doomsday, a monstrous being created by Lex Luthor. Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot, makes her first appearance here, marking the first live-action version of DC's Trinity: Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Despite mixed critical reception, Batman v Superman laid the foundation for the DC Extended Universe, DCEU, and introduced audiences to the concept of a shared cinematic universe for DC heroes. The darker tone and philosophical questions it raised made the film a bold entry into the superhero genre. Following the events of Batman v Superman, Superman's death leaves the world vulnerable. This leads to 2017's Justice League, where Batman and Wonder Woman must assemble a team of heroes to combat a new threat, Steppenwolf, a lieutenant of Darkseid. The team, which includes Aquaman, The Flash, and Cyborg, struggles to come together without Superman, emphasizing his role as the heart and soul of the Justice League. Superman's resurrection in Justice League is a pivotal moment. When he returns, he is initially confused and angry, leading to a brief but intense fight with the League. However, thanks to Lois Lane, Clark regains his humanity and once again takes up the mantle of Superman, helping the League defeat Steppenwolf and prevent an apocalypse. The 2017 release of Justice League faced significant behind-the-scenes issues, as Zack Snyder stepped down due to a family tragedy, and Joss Whedon stepped in to finish the film. The result was a disjointed film that felt inconsistent in tone and left many fans dissatisfied. In 2021, Zack Snyder's Justice League, often referred to as the Snyder Cut, was released after an unprecedented fan campaign. This version of the film restored Snyder's original vision, delivering a darker, more expansive story. Superman's resurrection in this cut is more fleshed out, showing his journey back to full strength, and his black suit, a nod to his resurrection in the comics, has become a fan favorite. As the DCU evolves, the iconic character of Superman is set to soar once again with a fresh take in Superman Legacy, directed by James Gunn. This new film marks the beginning of a reimagined DC universe under the leadership of Gunn and Peter Safran. The film is scheduled to be the first major project in this new phase, which is meant to reboot many of DC's iconic heroes. Stepping into the role of Superman is David Corenswet, a rising star known for his work in Pearl and The Politician. Corenswet's casting has already created a buzz, as fans are eager to see his take on the Man of Steel. His look, reminiscent of a young Christopher Reeve, has already won over many, and his ability to capture the duality of Superman and Clark Kent is highly anticipated. While plot details are still under wraps, it's expected that Superman Legacy will reintroduce familiar faces from Superman's mythos. The film will delve into Clark Kent's early days working at the Daily Planet, likely featuring classic characters like Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and Perry White. There's also speculation that Lex Luthor may appear as the primary antagonist. With Superman Legacy on the horizon, under the direction of James Gunn, the future looks brighter than ever for this timeless hero. Superman isn't just a character, he's a beacon of hope that has inspired millions across the globe, and his legacy will continue to shine for generations to come. Superman's story is far from over, and there's so much more to explore. If you enjoyed learning about his history, from Krypton to Superman Legacy, don't forget to smash that like button, make sure to subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any upcoming videos where we dive even deeper into the world of DC and beyond. Which Superman moment is your favorite? Drop a comment below, and let's keep the conversation going. Up, and away.